Plenty to talk about on today's Golden State Warriors today, but first, we are 1,240 people away from 60,000 subscribers as we continue to grow into the largest, most powerful, most watched Warriors channel right here on YouTube. So if you're looking for year-round coverage of the Dubs, this is your go-to spot and community. Hit that subscribe button, and with that, let's start the show. I'm Chase Sr. This is Golden State Warriors Today. Thank you so much for being here with us. On the docket for today's episode is hope in Jonathan Kuminga fading. Could the Dubs trade for Paul George and putting together a nice package for the Los Angeles Clippers? And we'll continue to talk about Dario Saric's role. The Basketball Talk on yesterday's show took a look at some of the analytics, and today we'll dive further into how he fits with the Golden State Warriors. Let's begin here, though, with the young player in Jonathan Kuminga, who I've been bullish on. I think he has a lot of potential, but sometimes you get into these conversations where you keep talking and harping on potential, and at some point, that individual, that player has to prove that potential is just a word. They actually have to display a level of skills that can lead to them being an impactful player. And time is starting to run out for Jonathan Kuminga. At least that's what Ryen Russillo of The Ringer thinks. He was talking about Kuminga on the Ryen Russillo podcast, and he broke down former top 10 picks into different categories. Kuminga, a couple of years ago, selected number 7 overall, and now that he's heading into year 3, he has Kuminga, does Russillo, in tier 3 of 4, named, if you don't do anything this year, who are we kidding? He has not been impressed with Kuminga's play, but I actually disagree. I think that Kuminga can ball. Him being at the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas alongside Steph Curry was certainly a good sign. Now, I disagree with Russillo, but here's what he had to say, and he's one of my favorite media personalities out there. The pods that him and Bill Simmons do, definitely a must-watch and must-listen for me every week. But he said, Kuminga, pretty self-explanatory. Yes, there are flashes. You know what? 450-plus guys that play in the NBA, they're all pretty good at basketball. There's usually going to be some flashes. Now, granted, Kuminga's flashes are probably more impressive than 90% of the league. But the non-flash stuff is just not there enough. I think a part of why Kuminga hasn't flashed enough, or he's been inconsistent in some of the highs and lows that he's had. He's a young basketball player, and he's an inexperienced basketball player. And to walk into an organization like Golden State, it can be somewhat daunting for a young player. You see Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, 4 titles. Steve Kerr's won a bevy of them. At the time, you had Bob Myers running basketball operations. Now you have Mike Dunleavy Jr., and you're like, shoot, sometimes a rookie walks into an environment in which there's a little bit of a breathing room and a little bit of a cushion, right, to absorb some of the early flaws. But for Kuminga, the expectations were sky high, and in his rookie year, the Warriors won an NBA championship. Why do I like Kuminga personally? Good athlete, long, can defend multiple positions. I've seen him have a better three-point shot than I thought. 37% in year 2, 33.5% in year 1. Some of the wow plays that he makes athletically are extremely, extremely impressive. And Draymond Green, he had went up to Bob Myers the night of the draft or during the draft and said, take Kuminga at 7, take Kuminga at 7. And I'm not saying that every current basketball player would be a great basketball executive, right? Like LeBron James has made some weird decisions in helping the Los Angeles Lakers. At the end of the day, shoot, he wanted Russell Westbrook, right? But Draymond Green knows the game well, he knows the team well, and he thought that Kuminga could fill in nicely. And against the Los Angeles Lakers, it became clear the Golden State Warriors were lacking size, athleticism, length. Kuminga can fulfill that. He just needs to get a grasp of the game a little bit more quickly, and the flashes, as Russillo pointed out, need to become a little bit more consistent. So do you have faith in Jonathan Kuminga? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. We want your feedback down in the comment section, so let us know. Let's segue to this now. Could the Dubs trade for Paul George? A wild trade proposal on the internet has the Warriors trading for playoff P. And this is the trade idea here, which is pretty interesting. And we can break it down here on Golden State Warriors today because it's not a trade that I would like the Warriors to do, where the Dubs get Paul George, Nicholas Batum, and then the Clippers receive Chris Paul as well as Andrew Wiggins. But there's also a trade that I also saw that I do want to bring up as well, because that one was pretty interesting that producer Jack had passed along, where Golden State could get their hands on Paul George and the Clippers receive Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton II, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and 2 first-round picks. So that first trade that we showed you was what we broke down over the weekend and on our live show. That other trade idea, Andrew Wiggins, GP2, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and 2 first-round picks to the Clippers in exchange for Paul George. And you think about playoff P. I think he'd be able to help improve this basketball team. Very good two-way player who's a better two-way player than Andrew Wiggins. You have to find a way to match salaries here, and that's why Andrew Wiggins has to go to Los Angeles. And Jonathan Kuminga would go there too. You lose Moses Moody. That's a lot to give up for Paul George. I wouldn't give up that much, but I'd be intrigued by the idea of Paul George fitting alongside Steph Curry, Draymond Green, as well as Klay Thompson. You look at his numbers over the last 4 years, the problem with Paul George is that he's never available enough. He has failed to play more than 54 games over the last, or 56 games over the last 4 seasons. And over the last 5 seasons, he has been injured a lot, but he would be an offensive upgrade over Andrew Wiggins. He's a very good defender, and I'm not sure there's much of a gap between him and Andrew Wiggins. And if you're going all in on trying to win an NBA championship this upcoming season, then Paul George would make sense. He doesn't make sense, though, for the trade ideas and trade details here, which is what we were talking about, where the Dubs get Paul George, Clippers receive Andrew Wiggins, GP2, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and 2 first-round picks. That's a bad job by me. I forgot to move the graphics over for producer Trace, but we're still going on the fly here, bringing you the best Warriors content on YouTube. So you look at this trade here, and let's ask you, would you make it T for trade or P for pass? You can share your thoughts down in the comment section here. I would not make this trade. Would I think about trading for Paul George if the Los Angeles Clippers wanted to switch things and change things up a little bit? I would be intrigued by it for the reasons that I talked about. Really good two-way player, on par with Wiggins defensively, so much better on the offensive end of the floor. You just lose too much with this particular trade here. T for trade, P for pass. And when the Warriors do make a move, if they make a move, we have you covered right here on the program. We provide you with year-round coverage of the Golden State Warriors, approaching 60,000 subscribers. Hit that sub button and lock us in. Let's round out today's show with more Dario Saric talk. And that video the other day popped off, 50,000 views, and Anthony Slater broke down the role that Saric would be playing for Golden State. I certainly have some thoughts on it as well. And yesterday, we took a look at the analytics, as I talked about a little bit earlier, as for why he could benefit this team on both ends of the floor, not just offensively, because the analytics do show he's an underrated defensive player. But Saric, Slater began, unlike JaMychal Green, can slip past a closeout, put it in, and put it on the floor, and keep the chain moving with some quick decision playmaking on the move. He's averaged 2 dimes per game in his career as a role player. That's an element that Otto Porter Jr. and Nemanja Bjelica gave the bench 2 seasons ago, but the second unit often lacked last year, and why Kerr regularly went to Anthony Lamb in certain lineup combinations. And that last note there of Steve Kerr going to Anthony Lamb, that is a problem because Anthony Lamb wasn't even a part of the playoff rotation. And if Steve Kerr had to go to him to fill some necessary attributes that your team had 2 years ago, but not this past year, that becomes an issue. And that's why I like the signing of Dario Saric. Pick and pop, pick and roll, good passer from the high post, better defensive player than what people give him credit for, very efficient as well on the catch and shoot. Last year, he shot damn near 40% from three-point range. And don't get overtaken your thoughts by the numbers here with Dario Saric. The impact and the fingerprints that he can have on the game of basketball in this Warriors system, I believe, could be profound for a guy who's going to be on a vet minimum contract. More from Slater on Saric here. He can fit into just about any lineup combination, but his second unit pairing with Kuminga is one that should intrigue. The numbers always suggested Kuminga worked well next to Lamb a season ago because of Lamb's ability to spread the floor and pass. That'll be Saric's presumed role. Because what happens here is that Saric can shoot the rock. Kuminga could then drive to the cup. Some of those actions in which he can get a driving lane to the tin could open up because Saric isn't going to clog up the paint. He could be on that outside arc. And then Chris Paul and Dario Saric, when they were together with the Phoenix Suns, they played a really good style of basketball with that two-man game. And then you add a third element on there. And now we're talking about this Warriors bench. Chris Paul is the point, Kuminga at that 4/wing, and then Saric down low. That bench unit, which lacked last year and was lackluster, is now going to be better heading into this upcoming season. So if you're excited for Dario Saric on the Warriors, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. The Croatian coming to San Francisco. And make sure you subscribe to the show here because we're pumping out content every single day at this point, sometimes multiple videos per day. We're just doing our job, keeping you in the know with all things Dubs year round.